So before we get started, check out the following links in the description box below as highlighted in the image shown. So you'll be able to get our past papers, our link to our official website, link to accreditations, our link to donation page, and contact details in the description. So once you'll be watching a certain video of any lesson or of any past paper, you'll be able to get all these links, and you can be able to get to download past papers, to reach to our official website. You'll be able to see links to our accreditations so that you can see which authorities have accredited us. You'll be able to reach to our donation page as well as our contact details.
Let's move on to the next question. Question number 32. You are told, use the following information to answer question 32 to question 34. And then the question reads, a project with initial cash outlay of 340 million promises the following cash flows. You have cash inflows of 120 million for 4 years, and then the cost of capital is 15%. You are told, evaluate the project to establish its payback period using the payback method. Now, here, the examiner wanted you to know or to remind yourself what is payback method. The payback method or the payback period is referred to the period where we required to recoup or to recover your initial investment. In this case, this person has invested 340 million. How long is he going to recover that money from the cash flows that are provided? Now, you see, 340 million, the first 2 years, the cash flow, let's have the cash flows, cumulative. Here, we shall have 120 million, 240 million, 360 million. Now, you see, for him to recover, it has between the second year and third year. Because you want to recover 340 million, and it is beyond 240 million, but less than 360 million. Therefore, the payback period shall be the 2 years complete, because it's already past 240, but between 240 and 340, there is 100 million divided by the income in that particular year, which is 120, or the cash flows in that particular year. So we ask ourselves, what is 100 divided by 120? 8.33. It therefore means the payback period is 2 plus 0.83, which is 2.83. So your answer is A. Then you're told, evaluate the present project to establish its worthiness using the net present value. You want to use the net present value. What does that mean? It therefore means I have to know the present values. I minus or subtract the initial investment. So my workings here, there are 4 years. I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. Cash flows, I have 120 million. They're in thousand on top. Here they're in thousand. This is 120 million. 120 million. I get the present value interest factor. Present value interest factor here, I will use at the discount rate of 15. Remember, the cost of capital was 15. You find the present values here. This is 0.8696. How do you get this one? You can use a calculator. Get 1 divided by 1.15. That is 8.696. You do the same 1.15 you square. This will give you 0.7561. And then this will give you 0.6575. And finally here you have 0.5718. Multiply now, here we shall have the present values. Present values. We shall have this gives me 104,352,000. This will give me 90,732,000. Then this is 78,900,000. And finally 68,616,000. When you add all this, take your calculator. I hope you're getting what I'm doing here. I'm taking the present values is the cash flows times the present value interest factor. And this present value interest factor is at 15%. 15% because the cost of capital is 15%. Add all this, you find this is 342,600,000. These are in thousands. So minus initial outlay or initial investment 340 million, it means that the present value is 2.6 million. So you come and get here, because you ask, you give the present value, then that means you have 2.6 million. The next one is evaluate the project to establish its worthiness using internal rate of return. What you need to know here about internal rate of return is IRR means NPVs is 0. So you're looking for the rate at which will give you NPVs being 0. Yeah. So you'll have to, in what you are going to do here, you are going to discount at 16.1%. You repeat the same thing you have done on that 3%. You discount at 16.1%, 16%. Of course, 15% you don't have to because you have already done it, and you have found that the NPV here is positive. According to IRR, they need, where we have 2.6 million, they need you to get 0 here. Yeah, here. That means that is what they want, the whole of this one to be 0. Therefore, when you do your calculations, you are going to find that the IRR here will be 15.38%. Yeah. So I'm saying this in this question, you have to test, because in your working, remember the examiner here is just interested with your answer. You work it separately and transfer your correct answer. When the rate is too high, you may not end up with the correct answer here. So as you may, sometimes you may even get with the negative. So the correct appropriate answer, if you discount this one, is 15.38%. That will give you IRR or the NPV being 0. Now, 35, you're told that a project with an initial outlay of that million promises cash annuity cash flows of 8,141,760 for years. Calculate the internal rate of return of the project. The key point here is the duration is not given. The duration is not given. Therefore, this is cash flows in perpetuity. Cash flows in perpetuity. Perpetuity. This is for a long period of time, for years. Now, how do we find the internal rate of return? Now, where do we have cash flows in perpetuity, the IRR is given as cash flows divided by the present values. Now, in this point, you need to know these cash flows, you don't have their present values because you don't know the discount rate. Yeah. So here we shall have the cash flows in perpetuity is 8,141,760. The present value, you're going to consider the initial investment that is being given here. That is 30 million. And then you're going to find that the IRR that is going to give you the discount rate or the net present value 0 should be 27.14%. Take note, Where we have the cash flows in perpetuity, then you don't know the N, you don't know the years. So you cannot use the present value interest factor table because you don't know how long are you going to take that. Yeah, it can even be 100 years, 20 years, 50 years. You don't know. That is why we are told is for years. So you cannot use the present value interest factor table to find the IRR. We move on to question 36, and question 36 reads, which one of the following statement is a capital budgeting challenge in real world? Yeah. What is the main, when you're talking about capital budgeting here, we are referring to allocating the scarce resources among various projects based on their recommendation or based on their returns. So which is the real challenge here? One, optimal resource allocation. Okay, although it's an issue of optimal resource allocation, but resources are available. So you can't talk that as a real issue here. Yeah, resources are out there, but you only figuring out on how to allocate them. Two, uncertain cash flows. You see, you are allocating resources on projects where you don't know their returns. You are estimating that this project is going to give you certain cash flows, but that is a projection. So let's look at other answers that are provided. Enhanced decision making, effective risk management. If you consider all these four answers, the real challenge when you are allocating resources is having or knowing which are the future cash flows, because you are basing your argument on resource allocation on the cash flows that are expected to be generated by certain projects, so that you now agree that this is the project to take. Therefore, the real issue here could be knowing the exact amount of cash flows that will be generated by that project or by those projects. That could be the real challenge. We move on to question number 37. Question number 37, you ask, which one of the following statement is a component of the cost of equity? Now, take note, the capital structure, we have equity, we have debt, and we have preference capital or preference shares. Equity is this ordinary shares, debt, and preference shares. Now, here you are told which of the one of is a component of cost of equity. Here specifically dealing with equity. Therefore, the A is coupon rate. Coupon rate goes with debt, debentures. That one cannot, we rule out that one. Dividend yield. Dividend yield, in fact, dividends are not the cost of debt. Yeah, those one you can. Risk-free rate. Risk-free rate. No, that one, you see, when you're talking about the risk-free rate, this is the assumption that there are no risk. There are no risk. Yeah? The rate at which, especially this, we normally assume that when you are trading with government, treasury bills and the rest, they are risk-free rate, meaning that the investment is guaranteed. There are no risk. Although nowadays there is nothing like risk-free rate, which is difficult for people to believe, but you also investing with the government, there is risk. There is risk of, even when you want to withdraw the money, you'll find that there are some excise duty and the rest charge on your withdrawal. Anyway, so the point here is the component cost of equity, we can talk of debt to equity ratio. Debt, because here we are talking about what, if you have debt to equity ratio, you can be able now to estimate the amount of equity that you have. Yeah, When you have this debt to equity ratio, then it means you are able to use this ratio to know, because the component cost of capital, we have equity, debt, and preference shares. So that is it. Here, he had saying that the component cost of equity there could be debt to equity. Next, you are told that what is the cost of debt? What is the cost of debt? We are told what is the cost of debt. Now, I want you to take note of this. When you get a loan, the interest you pay for that loan becomes the cost of acquiring that loan. Yeah, the interest you pay to acquire a loan is the cost. So the rate of interest therefore becomes the rate of cost of debt. We can therefore say the cost of debt is not the book value of debt, because the book value of debt can't be, you'll still pay that. That is the amount outstanding. Face value of debt, no. Historical cost of, no, is the market interest rates. The market interest rate, that is the cost of debt. Market interest rate. Because the market interest rate will generate the interest to be paid. Therefore, that becomes the cost of debt. We move on to question number 39. Question number 39. And here you are told, Biashara Limited total sales during the year was 600 million. 90% of sales were on credit. If its year-end receivable turnover is 5, determine the average collection period based on 365 days year and the end year receivable respectively. Now, let's first of all ask yourself, how do you find receivable turnover? Receivable turnover is found by credit sales divided by average receivables. Average receivables. Now, if you want to get average collection period, you get 365, which is the period number of days per year, divided by receivable turnovers. Receivable turnover. Now, here we need now to find ourselves what is credit sales. If you look at the statement, you're told 90% of the total sales were on credit. Therefore, 600 million, 90% will be on credit. So credit sales is 90% of 600 million. This gives us 540 million. Now, receivable turnover, if you want to find receivable turnover will therefore be 540 million. 540 million divided by 5, which is the turnover rate. And this gives you 108 million. If you want to know the collection period, we are going to find 365 divided by the turnover, and that gives us 73 days. 365 divided by 5 gives us 73. Therefore, your correct answer will be 73 days. 73 days and 108 million from this working. Finally, we want to look at this is question number 40. where you are told that this is B. You are told that if economic order quantity 300 is equals to 360 units, ordering cost or order cost is shillings 5 per order, and the carrying cost is 0.2 per units. What is the usage? In other words, you ask, what is the demand? How do you find EOQ? EOQ is obtained as the square root of 2D times the cost. This one times this is ordering cost divided by carrying cost. Divided by carrying cost. We have been told that this is 360 units, is the square root of 2 times D, carrying cost is 5, divided by 0.2. Squaring both sides, square this side, square this side, you'll find that 129,600 is equals to 10D divided by 0.2, and therefore your D is 2592 units. That is the annual demand. That is the usage. That is 2592. So this video, I want to focus myself on those 10 questions. That is question number 31 to question 40. And note that, take note of this, that the exam that is forthcoming, you'll have to prepare yourself for multiple choice questions. Otherwise, we are going to stop there in this video. We'll meet in our next video. Goodbye.
So if you like this video, you can always enroll with us. You'll be able to access more of these revision sessions. And also you'll be able to find well done lectures or pre-recorded videos for all the KASNEB courses as well as CHRP. And in case of anything, you can always reach us out. We have our contact details on the screen. Feel free to call, feel free to WhatsApp anytime. So thank you, and let's meet in our next session.